Hello everybody, thank you for coming back to the channel and welcome to this project of building Towners rubber powered Spitfire. So I've already started to put in the stringers. These are like 1.5 millimeter thick and around 3 millimeters wide, and yes, they do have a little bit of flex to them, not very much. I already broke one, but I think it's going to hold. This I think I can maybe already take off. Or maybe it's not going to hold. Doesn't look too good. Maybe if I sand it down it'll be okay. So this stringer that I've put in already on each side is the longest one, and now I have to, I don't know if you can see it on the plan, maybe I'll move you a little bit, and there, maybe you can see it. So the other stringer, so this is the one that I put in. There's one that comes up above that just goes from former C to F, and then the others, this one goes from B to, what is this, to J, and the others at the bottom that I'm not quite sure how far they go. So I'm going to work on both sides and one by one, basically building up then all the stringers on the lower side of on the lower bottom, on the lower half of the fuselage, and like that getting a bit of the strength into the fuselage. Then after that, that'll take me a little bit, but after that then I intend to start to build a bit of the top formers. But before I do put them all in, I'll probably look at the rubber powered, at the motor itself. So that might actually come also into this chapter. So follow me along on this one. Let's see how far we get, and wish me luck that I don't break too many stringers, because I always break stringers. I'm very clumsy. And the lower formers are already put in place, as you can see. The very last one, the bottom one, I just did a 1.5 by 1.5 millimeter square because it really has a lot of bends. I don't know if you can see it, but you see it goes up here, goes down. If you look from the bottom also, it goes around. And I think that's the solution that Towner used to do, instead of using the fillets, that if you make a Spitfire, you typically need like paper fillets or wood fillets to connect the wing to the fuselage in a nice way. I think this is the solution, that a very elegant solution, but also not an easy one, that was found. So those are the two stringers then, all the stringers in place for the bottom part of the fuselage. Still maybe to clean up a little bit and trim off the ends. And now the next step is going to be to try to figure out the rubber motor. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in the front here and the rear top formers, one here that I still don't have, and then here there's a vertical peg. Normally we see horizontal pegs for the rubber motor, but Towner does use the vertical peg. So there I'll use a small dowel and try to install it there, that we have then the rear peg for the rubber motor to tie, and then at the front that we can have at least the construction ready to be able to put in the nose block and all that part. So I'm going to get on with it. It's a bit of a difficult part, and then the rubber motoring itself, it has its own challenges, but let's see how I get along, and then at least we'll have the inside of the plane done. You could also do it at the end, but I figured out it might be easier to play around with it when it's still open at the top than when it's all closed up with all the stringers and all the shape on top. So I'll get on with it and I'll let you know how it goes. Let me give you an update, because I think I run the risk of getting in the flow and charging on and not showing you what I'm doing. So with the fuselage, so I've already put the top of the former K for kilo, and also the top of the former A. Into this one at some point I'll work on the nose block, but now at the moment I'm working with the rear peg, and for that, according to the plan, as you might be able to see, so I need to put in a block of wood in the bottom, and then also a block of wood that goes into the tail assembly, which I'm not sure how to do it. Basically, like I think I can build that block that fits in here. It says here, good fit between basic stringers, but for it to fit on the tail assembly, that means I need to have the tail assembly already created. There's some ribs and everything, so I'm not sure exactly how to do it. So what I'm thinking of doing is more like creating the block, gluing the block in place so that I have the engine peg fixed, so it's a bit of a deviation from Towner's model, and then I'm going to need to do some kind of location pins or something to be able to put the whole tail assembly. Here on the plan, this block is fixed to the tail assembly, so the tail would come off to move the to move the or to hook the rubber motor onto the rear peg. I'm thinking also of maybe other options. That might be just to putting a piece that will hold the rear peg in place to allow me to assemble it, and then have still the block there, so maybe have the piece maybe a bit lower down. I'm not sure there. There is not too much space, and I have actually created already the block, which has a bit of a strange shape. I don't know if you can see it, but I carved it out of a block of balsa, and this should go. Doesn't fit right. I need to figure out how I put it in. I can put it in from the side, and this goes in here. Then I'll have to glue it in place. This is the lower block. Then the dowel will come in from the top. Somehow I can jam it in there once that is glued, and that is going to be then the peg. The question is now how much space do I have, because there is not much space. If I put this here, there's really not much space for the motor to hook on, so I'm not really sure. What I was also thinking of doing, as I know a lot of you actually you were mentioning, is to put a little bit of tubing. This aluminium tubing, and it actually does fit the size of this. The dowel is actually a skewer from the kitchen, yeah, it's nothing special. To put a little tube there to allow the motor to not kind of crumple up or bundle up or not up at the back of the fuselage and change in the center of gravity. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that, because there's not too much space. So I've got to figure out how I'm going to do that with the location. Another idea that I have is maybe to just glue the block in place so that the dowel is kind of fixed, that I can't really take it out, which I'm not sure if it's practical, and then put the location pegs into this forward fuselage somehow, so the fuselage, the K-form. So I've got to figure all that out, but I'm enjoying it. The carving of little pieces of wood is fun, and figuring things out. That's overcoming these challenges, right, is the whole point. Good. So anyhow, I'll update you with whatever I decide. And progress is unstoppable. So what I've decided to do in the end, I want to try to respect the plans from Towner and not do modifications, but I nevertheless still need something to hold the vertical peg in place while I build in the rubber motor and things like that, right? So what I decided to do, I've put in just a sheet of ply, made a hole in it so that I have a place to actually put in the dowel. The base is there. I've put in a little aluminium tube. I did try to do kind of the bending at the end of it, but it kind of came out worse. So in the end I'm just going to leave it like that. And then it's not going to have much space, the rubber, to get off it, because the wood, the block of wood, will actually kind of hold it in place. So this kind of cylinder here, or the tube, will allow hopefully the rubber to move, and basically to avoid, as I was saying, that the rubber motor then just clumps up in the back. So I've put that in place. I've put also some gussets here. These are not in the plan, just in case, because I think once the stringers are in place, it's going to be strong enough, because there are 3 stringers that go onto this. But without the stringers, I might actually need a bit of support. So I just added it in there. I can always remove them if I think it's needed. So that's the progress with the rear motor. A bit of a fight, because I was fighting with that tube. Then the next step that I've started already is the nose block. So the nose block would be this, which then has to, actually on it then I have to put some kind of bearing to put the propeller on. I'm not going to get near the propeller yet. So what I've started already with the nose block, I've got this piece of balsa, which is 6mm, 1/4 inch, and if I remember correctly, no, I can't remember what way up I did it. I think it should actually stiffly go in here, which is good. Like, doesn't need to be very loose, so it'll go in there. I think I'll be able to push it in, and then on top of that I'm going to cut this out of 1mm ply. I think it's 3-layer ply, and then that's going to go basically over that, and this is the block that I'll be able to take off. The propeller will be attached to it through the hook and everything. So basically building this up, and I want to put in a little bushing, like a tube of, I think I've got some copper tube, which is like 2mm, so I'll be putting that so that the wire can then basically spin. Might not be needed, but then that it has as free spinning as possible. Other times I've used pop rivets, but I think the pop rivet hole is even bigger, so I'll go with a small tube, and hopefully like that then the motor will hold out. As I don't have the propeller, I might actually do some tests with some other propeller just to see if it works. Maybe bend the wire quickly or something and see if it works. But still, this to be put together, to be glued together, and once I have that, make a hook or a test hook and try to elaborate the rubber rubber motor. So anyhow, so progress. Just wanted to update you on this because sometimes I just go ahead and I forget to update you. And time to wrap up the video. So, well, I think from perspective of structure, I think I already mentioned, I put in here a temporary piece of 1mm plywood to hold the post in place. I do have there the aluminium tube, and I wanted to show you one of the older experiments. I tried to do this kind of bend, I don't know if you can see it, the bending of the tube on the outside, but it gets sharper actually. So I just put it in there, just sanded it down a little bit, filed it down, and I hope it's smooth enough. Then I went into my bag of rubber powered motors, and some of this is just rubber, some of them have been braided, there's some past attempts at braiding. I'm not good at this, and I know that if I want to get any good at flying free flight with rubber, I need to learn this, but I struggle, let's say it like that. In the shop they tell me this is the best rubber they have, which is maybe like 4mm by 1 or something, and they say it's competition grade, blah blah blah, but I suppose it's only good if you know how to braid it. So what I did find, I found this other motor that I braided some time ago. I don't know how, it's square rubber, I know it's quite tough, I would say, so I hope it has enough torque, and again it's a balance between torque and turns and all that stuff, right? So I have no idea. So this motor is actually a little bit shorter than I would like to. I would like it to be a little bit longer than the fuselage, but I think it matches up well. I bent a hook, just a temporary hook, and I put on a plastic propeller. The hook is nothing special, but I think it worked out quite well, and I just put it in there basically to test it out before I carve the propeller. Initially I wanted to use this propeller that I did for the P47, it was one of the tests. But it's too thick, the wire I had was too short, so I didn't want to cut more wires. It's just a temporary fix, let's say, and this one is not balanced, but it would have been good somehow. Nice to see there the 4-bladed prop, but anyhow. So I just put this one here. I just give it some turns, not too much because it doesn't have the full support of the stringers, especially at the back, but it does actually generate quite a bit of thrust. Lesson learned also, I need more space in between the propeller and the plate. Have to put maybe, have there, that's what's it called? It's a sequin tip from Cliff to use sequins all over the place. I probably need to put a couple more to get more space, but I think I did it up to like 70-80 turns. I get maybe like 3 seconds or something on it. Let's see how it goes now. So that's maybe like 2-3 seconds. So I think that I'll be able to get maybe something like maybe 5, maybe if I go quite high up, maybe up to 10 seconds. If this flies for 10 seconds, it's already a fantastic success, right? Like my record is 4 seconds on the P47. But the structure is pretty much in place. I'm going to leave the prop in place and the motor in place. What I'm also going to do, before I forget, I'm going to put here on former B, I'm going to close it up a little bit, leave space of course for the motor, but I want to close it up because that's a bay, I think, where I'm going to end up putting weight. So I'm going to close it up so that I can put in weight through the hole of the propeller mount, of the propeller block, so that I can put in some weight if needed, and I suppose it will be needed. And then also there's of course indications about the angle of the prop. I haven't done any angling here, and just counting then on doing some shimming. So if it's quite fixed, but then I need to go down, then I'll put maybe some shim or something there and bring it basically to this angle somehow. But anyhow, those are all those thoughts. Next step, as I say, to put this on and then start with the top formers of the fuselage and start to bring the shape of the fuselage together. So quite good progress actually, quite happy with it, and I think we'll leave it there. So as always, thank you everybody very much for watching and following along. for all your tips and recommendations, always very much appreciated, and I'll see you next time.